Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Banking Matters. I'm your host today, Daniel Baker. Joining me, I have Jennifer Stanick, who's Compliance Officer for Signature Bank of Arkansas and a CRCM holder. Jennifer has always been a details kind of person. She began her career in administration and accounting, maintaining detail-oriented tasks in the transportation industry. 5 years into her career, she found an opportunity in community banking. While some found the rules and regulations governing banking to be cumbersome, Jennifer found her stride in navigating her new environment. Now, in her 7th year of community banking, Jennifer serves as the Vice President Compliance Officer as well as the CRA Officer at Signature Bank of Arkansas. In her tenure at Signature Bank, Jennifer has overseen the compliance side of a core conversion, 3 new market openings, and an endeavor to create a bilingual banking brand within the bank's organization. A native Arkansan, an avid golfer, Jennifer lives in Fayetteville with her husband and 2 daughters. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Jennifer, I've got to ask, so you're an avid golfer. Do you get out and play very often during the winter time?
Not during the winter. I'm definitely a fair weather golfer.
Oh, that's fair. I know some diehard golfers back when I used to live in Utah that even in the winter, if as long as the course was open, they would find a way to try and get there. And that's a bit beyond me. I'm not that into golfing, I could say.
Mm-hmm.
So Jennifer, I like to start by asking all of my guests as they join the show, how did you get started in banking in the first place? What brought you to this industry? Because you were in transportation previously. So how did you get here?
So I was working in Northwest Arkansas for a transportation company.
Okay.
And my husband took a job in Jackson, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite a big move. Research in the area, it's on the list of high crime.
Yeah,
So
it's a little different than Fayetteville area.
But we moved there in 2017.
Okay.
I didn't know it at the time, but I was pregnant. And so I spent my time, at home looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
When I interviewed, I was very discouraged, like, who's going to hire someone that walks in, 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
But I went to one 2 weeks before my due date with the bank and, went through the interview. It was a great interview, probably the best interview of my entire life. But I just had this feeling like no one's going to hire me. But I kept having to go. Like my husband was very encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And the director came into the meeting after it had already started. So we were already sitting down at the table. The table kind of disguised my belly a little bit. And I remember she asked, so if you're hired, like, when can you start? And I said, well, that's kind of tricky. I could start tomorrow, but I'll need to take off in 2 weeks to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what? You're pregnant? So we had a really good laugh. I was really amazed that a company would wait 8 to 10 weeks to hire someone, but they did. They offered me the
Shows how
job.
much they liked you, right?
Yes. And so I fell in love with community banking at that time, just with the bank itself. Great people, all they want to do is help their community, and it showed within the corporation itself. I worked there as a loan processor for about a year and a half. Through that time, I asked many, many questions because I really had no clue what I was doing.
No, hey, brand new industry, right?
No experience or anything, but just that willingness to work. And I think that in any career, you need that grit and that, just willingness. And so as a compliance officer, that's very important as well. But anyway, so I spent a year and a half there, and we moved back to Arkansas, and I found another bank to work with that was very similar. But we really wanted to move back to Northwest Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and whenever I was there, I found out I didn't have a degree, or I still don't. I'm still in college, but I have about a year left. And but I knew that if I wanted to make a career or get a job that made any money, like, I need to find a niche.
Right.
And so a lot of people happen into compliance or something, and only the craziest ones seek it out. So, you know, I I was like, well, I need to go either BSA or compliance because those are the ones that nobody really, seeks out or really wants to do. From my experience of talking to people, they're like, oh, you don't want to do that.
So everyone kind of has nightmares of BSA, huh?
Yes. So, yeah, I knew I needed to find a career in one of those and was looking for a job. Found another bank that was willing to take a chance on someone to get their foot in the door in compliance. And then I had the opportunity to, there was a compliance officer job open. I did not have the experience or felt even like I should even apply for it, but my husband and my biggest cheerleader, trying to encourage me to apply for the job, even though I didn't hit all the marks. That was probably the greatest move I've ever made because I did apply and I didn't get the job,
Okay.
but they made a job for me because
Oh,
people in
nice.
compliance are hard to find.
So then let me was that at the bank where you are currently?
Yes, that was at Signature Bank of Arkansas.
Okay, so then I have to ask because is as we were going over your bio, you mentioned something about starting a bilingual banking brand. What is this?
Yeah, so a year into my job here, I became the compliance officer, and we realized that we had a, very high Hispanic and Latino community
Yeah.
that we were not directly in, but we wanted to reach those people because um, that community of people ha- they have a hard time trusting banks, and so we
Okay.
really wanted to be a good resource for them, to where that they don't go to these check cashing places and spend half their paycheck trying to cash it,
Cash the check, right?
and just really just try to help them and do a lot of educational things. And so we opened up a Hispanic and Latino dedicated bank called Banco C.
Okay.
We opened our first one of those last year. And this year I'm sorry, in 2021, sorry, 2022, my bad. Time has flown.
That's
2022.
remarkable.
So, and then this year we're going to open up our second one. We've had a great
Okay, great.
success with it.
How
You
far apart from the first one is it? Is it nearby or is it like a hop, skip, and a jump away?
It is. I mean, it's pretty close. It's like the
Okay.
next town, so
Okay.
it's I don't know, maybe 20 miles apart.
So really, what you're saying is that your bank identified that there were additional needs inside of the community and has really taken advantage of that to not only meet those needs, but to also generate a new customer base.
Right, right.
Perfect. That's great. So then let's take a step back because you mentioned you were a CRCM holder. As I
Mhm.
understand, you just recently passed that test. Is that correct?
I did, and I
Oh,
took it.
congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. It was probably the scariest thing I've ever done.
So then how long did you spend studying for that test? And then how was the test itself? Tell me a little bit about your experience there.
So, I think I signed up for the test in April.
Hmm.
I went to my final. You have to do, certain things to be able to sit for the exam.
Right. Have to meet certain qualifications and credits and
Right.
everything.
I went to my final ABA school to be able to sit for it, and then I did the exam prep, and I did
Okay.
the exam prep pretty much all year. But I was actually scheduled to take it in July and
Okay.
didn't feel confident enough, so I rescheduled it. You only get one reschedule.
Right.
And so, like, we went through all of that. I rescheduled it for as far out as I could because I was like, I just don't feel comfortable. And
As
so
much time as possible. Check.
I picked December because at that time I could, I'm, like I said, I'm still in school. So I'm
Mhm.
juggling work, a full time job. I'm juggling
Kids, family, school, you name it.
school, everything. And so I finished school on December 2nd. So I hit the books on that one super hard right after that. But
Mhm.
I mean, I'd been studying the entire time. I
Right.
took the test. It's a 4 hour test. I finished with 45 minutes left because the exam prep, it tells you how much time you spend on each test or each question
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
So
Your
I was
pacing
like,
and everything.
I have 50 seconds for each question. I had already timed it out. I'm very analytical. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I'm taking 60 to 65 questions, review them, all that stuff, and then go back and forth. So I finished
Mhm.
with 45 minutes left, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. Like, ooh,
Something
I
wrong
go
here.
back and review these, and I don't want to triple guess myself. And so I submitted it with 30 minutes left and was nervous, but since I did it at home, I chose to do it at home with a proctor because that's how I do my school. And so
Right.
it was more comfortable for me. And so if you do it at home, you get an immediate pass fail, but
Oh, nice.
you don't
Because
get
it's on
your
the
score.
computer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so got the immediate results that I passed, and I like just started crying. I think that was the only test I cried at. And
There's that type of stress.
yeah, and so like I was trying to read it through the tears. I was like, I gotta make sure I read this right. So I like read it like 5 times, and I was like, I did it.
Uh, I can understand that feeling.
But I was told that like everyone I talked to, no one passed the first time. So I
Oh,
was very nervous about it.
yeah. Yeah. So I understand that feeling. So I have a bar license and everything. So I'm a practicing attorney, and
Nice.
I very much understand the pressures behind taking one of those tests. It's a lot of fun per se.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Did you have a mentor while you were walking into the CR, or was it just kind of like your network advised you to do this, or how did you decide to do the CRCM? Like what happened in that
So
situation?
I, I mean, the person that was here before me as the compliance officer, um, she moved on to be the internal auditor
Okay.
and to start that department because we
Yeah.
crossed $1 billion. So she's starting that up, and then I took on her position, and so she's always been a great resource and mentor for me these past few years. I already had my eyes set on a CRCM, but I think that was just out of my own personal ambition because like I said, I don't have a degree, so I'm trying to build up that resume as best I possibly can. Um, and I've always looked for a 5 year plan, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Within the school that I'm attending, they also have you set out your career goals and things like that. So, um, like that's been a big, you look forward to what you're going to do next, and so
Hmm.
that was my next step.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So then, as we were talking about topics and kind of discussing what we were going to go over today, one of the things you mentioned is the importance of networking and getting contacts to where you can solve and find answers to questions and things like that as they come up. And obviously, just kind of jumping into the compliance industry and not having necessarily a background established in the industry, how did you adapt to this? How did you do this?
Oh, so being able to go and attend things in person rather than virtual, which is
Okay.
kind of what everything has kind of come to nowadays. But if you have an
Hmm.
opportunity to go in person to any of these events, I highly encourage that because that's where I gained a lot of those networkings and people to talk to. I had
Shake someone's hand, meet them in person, get the phone number, the business card.
Yes, and I have several different groups that I have been able to, kind of talk back and forth with. Like I said, the previous compliance officer here had another contact that she has shared with me, has been a great resource. And so it kind of started like that. And then I realized, hey, banks are out to help other banks.
Yeah.
Compliance isn't it's not a job where you have your description, here's what you do. It's a job where you've got to figure it out.
Yeah. Lots
So,
of gray area inside of compliance, huh?
yes. And so, having those other people in compliance and other banks to talk to and see how they do things is very, very important. So I got a lot of that from the ABA school whenever I attended it for my to sit for the CRCM. I also got it for we're in a working group for 1071. And
Mhm.
so just if you're able to get into any of these working groups or anything like that, that's a great resource as well.
So really just kind of developing those contacts,
Mhm.
making those friends, and then not only getting people that you can reach out to, but I'm assuming people also have started reaching out to you when they have questions.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, so definitely like a back and forth, not just a take situation, but a give and take. So everybody's kind of helping everyone else
Uh-huh.
out to become more compliant as a whole and help the industry across the board. Is that a fair assumption?
Oh, yes. Very much.
Okay, perfect. So then I know a lot of different banks. Compliance is kind of a little bit of a black cloud. When you say, "Oh, compliance needs this," people kind of cringe and groan and say, "I don't want to help compliance out," or "I don't want to deal with that," or whatever it may be. How's the compliance environment at Bank of Arkansas, and what have you done to kind of help shape that environment?
So I think it's really important to know how to talk to people
Okay.
and know how they are going to like read their reactions and come
Mhm.
at an angle of where, hey, we might not could do it this way, but let's try to find a better way and maybe this will work. I always try to offer up, I hate saying no, but and so I try not to use the word no.
How
Um,
about this?
right? Like this might be a better solution. So, and we got a whole new with our core conversion. Right after that, we did a new uh, loan origination software as well. And
Mhm.
so, understanding how that works, I've had a lot of loan officers reach out to me and be like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And they realize that compliance isn't really bad, and
Mhm.
like I said, the
No.
golfing, I use that, whenever we have these tournaments that the bank participates in or something like that. I use that to go and, you know, hang out with employees of the bank and
Yeah, spend
build
some
those
time with them.
relationships. Like, don't just go to them with a problem every time. Just go and talk to them. Go and figure out what they like, what they do, what their lives are, be dedicated to them specifically. So I think that's really helped reshape. Also, my mom was a junior high counselor growing up, so I have
Mhm.
that in my back of my head. And just learning how to read people and talk to them in a way that you're self aware and able to relate that information. It's important, relate the importance as well, but just try to do it in a very nice way.
Yeah, and I can totally appreciate and respect that. I think that having that skill set of being able to communicate is one of the most important parts, arguably, of our job because ultimately our the job of a compliance officer, the job of compliance is to make sure people are following the rules. And if people won't communicate with you, then you won't know there's a problem until there's a problem. And
Right.
that can definitely turn into a headache. So I can really appreciate that. So then, as I know, a lot of people kind of in this line of business or in the compliance line of business tend to be a little bit more introverted. They like digging through the rules. They like digging through the policies and everything like that. Um, are you? Would you classify yourself as an introverted person, or are you more of an extroverted person?
I think I'm a introverted extrovert.
Okay,
I
so you're an extrovert that likes quiet time.
yes, I like my alone time, and I like, I I hate public speaking, and I don't like, introducing myself to new people and putting myself in those awkward positions.
Mhm.
But one thing that kind of resonated with me is, and I know this wasn't his quote, I think he was quoting somebody else, but I watched a thing that Will Smith did.
Okay.
And one of the quotes he said was, "The greatest thing you ever wanted is just on the other side of fear."
It's
And
a
I
good
had
quote.
that wrote on a post-it note. I know it's somewhere on my desk, but I had it wrote on a post-it note for years.
Hmm.
And I look at that, and every time I feel, like a little nervous or a little scared, like I read that and I'm like, okay, I got to do it. Like this is, I just got to do it. Like public speaking, you've got to go
Yeah.
to board training.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Like you put yourself out there and you do a job, and there's good things that are going to come from it. So,
I think that's a great quote. The greatest thing you've ever wanted is just on the other side of fear.
mhm.
That's a very interesting quote, and you can do a lot of interesting things if you apply that one.
Yeah. So I've lived by that for.
Although I can't say I don't think I'm going to jump out of an airplane anytime soon. I'm okay avoiding the skydiving side of things.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, it's been awesome speaking with you. It's been awesome having you joining us. And I always like to give the guests who do join us an opportunity to kind of share one last tidbit of advice or information. So, Jennifer, if you could give banks listening today one piece of advice, so just according to Jennifer, what would it be?
I would say, for those young compliance officers out there, or, just women in the industry, even guys, I mean, anyone,
Hmm.
um, even if you're not qualified, apply, speak up, don't be afraid, just, put yourself out there, and good things will come. If you're afraid to ask or afraid to do something, it will never happen. There's
Yeah,
never even a chance. So give yourself that opportunity and give yourself that chance.
a chance not taken is an opportunity never received. I like that.
Right.
That's a very good piece of advice. Well, Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us for today's episode.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For the rest of our listeners, that's Banking Matters.